Hey y'all, I'm Scott Coffin. Welcome back to my digital art YouTube channel. I post weekly videos discussing art practices and philosophies, as well as bite-sized tips and tricks focused on Procreate. So if that's your thing, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss a video. For this week's video, we're going to be doing something just a little bit different. I'm not really particularly inclined to post news videos very often, but Procreate has been teasing a pretty big announcement for weeks now, and today they finally delivered on that announcement. Since my channel is focused on Procreate, I obviously couldn't pass up the chance to give my 2 cents on this. It's also really convenient timing because if I'm being perfectly honest, the video I originally had planned for this week has taken me just a little longer than I originally thought it would, so I had to push that back next week. So guess what? This is our content for this week. I hope you enjoy. Now, this would normally be the point in the video where I say, before I jump into the main content, I'm going to explain to you what I'm drawing in the background. But considering that the content for this week's video got pushed back to next week, and I'm kind of doing this one on the fly, the honest explanation is I have no flipping clue. I recorded the audio for this without deciding what piece of art I was going to use. So whatever you're seeing back there, I hope you enjoy it. With all that said, in case you missed the actual announcement we're going to be discussing, Procreate announced today that they'll be throwing their hat into the animation ring with a standalone animation app called Procreate Dream, releasing in November for a one-time price of $20. Now, if you've been paying attention to Procreate over the last few years at all, this isn't exactly a shocking development. Procreate introduced animation functions into the primary Procreate app a couple iterations ago, and it's been pretty clear that they've had an interest in this for some time now. Quite the point, it was very clear from the presentation that they put on that this is not something that they just decided to throw out there on a whim. They were very clear that they've been working on this program for over 5 years now. The presentation itself only really demoed a few key features of the program, so it was a little difficult to get an idea of exactly how the functionality of the app works. However, a few of the bigger name art-related tech YouTubers were able to get their hands on pre-release copies and put up some demonstration videos on their channels, and it's pretty clear from those videos that the typical minimalist, easy-to-use Procreate interface aesthetic is in full force here. I obviously don't have any first-hand experience with the app myself. I'm waiting until November just like the rest of you to get my hands on it. But if you want to see a good first-hand demonstration, maybe start by looking up Brad Colbau's YouTube channel, which, to be perfectly frank, if you're a digital artist, you probably ought to be following him anyway. He's got some pretty awesome content. Suffice to say that the app itself looks about as streamlined and user-friendly as you can expect an animation app to be. And that's the really important qualifier to keep in mind here. As streamlined as you can expect it to be. Animation's really complicated work. It requires a lot of skill, it requires a lot of patience, and it requires a very technically robust app. And Procreate Dream looks to be all of those things while keeping the interface streamlined and relatively easy to use. But I do think it's really important to manage your expectations. If you're like me and you've never animated a day in your life, Procreate Dream is not suddenly going to turn you into a master animator. What it does have the potential to do is lower the barrier of entry, both in terms of cost and in terms of technical proficiency, for anybody that does have an interest in the animation field. You know, the way the original Procreate app did for digital illustrators. That's where this announcement has me particularly excited. It's easy to forget, all these years later, that when Procreate originally released on the iPad, it was kind of a watershed moment for digital illustration. Prior to the release of the original Procreate, digital illustration was a field that was overwhelmed by big desktop-class applications that were confusing and intimidating to learn to use. Procreate took the ability to draw digitally, put it on a tablet, and slimmed down the interface to make it easy for newcomers to use, making the incredibly safe assumption that this new application is designed with that same philosophy in mind. This could be the same watershed moment for digital animation that the original app was for digital illustration. And given that they've had 5 years to work on this and have learned from all the trials and tribulations and mistakes and errors of the original app, it could be even more than that. This app has the potential to not only change the workflow of industry professionals, but also to make the field much more accessible to up-and-comers and freelancers. Honestly, I'm super excited for the application, and I'll be picking it up on launch day. So be sure to let me know in the comments if you want to see me fumble with animation for the first time using Procreate's new animation app. All that said, while general reaction to the announcement has been positive, it's also been met with more than a few naysayers, so let's discuss that briefly. Notably, the vast majority of the negative reactions have fallen mostly into one of two categories. While the vast majority of the Procreate community went into today's announcement knowing that something new was coming, there was also the general expectation of the traditional yearly update to the already existing app. Unfortunately, today's presentation was notably devoid of any mention of updates or new features for the base Procreate app, which of course the online community obviously jumped on, declaring Procreate to be dead. However, if you pay close attention during the presentation, the presenter did note that some of the new features that were added for the animation app will also be making their way backwards to the Procreate base app. And that's not exactly surprising. It's to be expected that moving forward, they'd want to keep the two apps as comparable as possible so that the user experience is comparable between the two. The other big complaint that I keep seeing online is from a very vocal contingent of the community that really wanted vector features to be added to the base Procreate app and somehow talked themselves into believing that today's huge announcement was that vector features were coming to Procreate. While it's very understandable to want vector features as an artist, there's a couple points that have to be considered here. First of all, the Procreate developers made pretty clear in the lead-up that today's announcement was going to be about a new standalone app, so it was never going to be about new features being added to Procreate itself. Moreover, Procreate is what is called a raster app, and at some point I'm going to put out a video that digs a little bit deeper into what exactly that means, but the short version is literally the opposite of a vector app. So, if Procreate was to do vectors, it probably actually would be as a standalone app, not as a feature set added to the base app. So, even if they had announced the vector features today that everybody was hoping for, it still was going to be a standalone app, which of course people would be upset about. That said, it's worth considering that when the original Procreate released, again, what made it so special was that it took a different approach to doing digital illustration than anybody else was doing at the time. When it comes to vector illustration, that just wouldn't be the case. There are already inexpensive, tablet-friendly, fully featured, easy-to-use solutions out there. As a perfect example, you need only look at Affinity Designer. If you're looking for a fully featured professional-grade vector image app with a tablet-friendly interface, Affinity Designer already has that. What that means is Procreate would be designing a solution to a problem that's already been solved. And I don't think they're going to waste their time doing that. Naturally, that's just my 2 cents worth, but that's kind of where I stand on the whole Procreate should do vectors idea. Anyway, that is, at least for the moment, all I have to say on the topic of Procreate's new animation app announcement. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Is this new announcement a dream come true for you, or are you still just pissed we're not getting vectors? As always, like, subscribe, and share this video with all your buddies. It helps the channel a ton, and I always appreciate it. I'll be back again next week with a topic I think you guys are actually going to really enjoy. So as always, until then, thanks for watching.